notification. LinkedIn's going live here now.
Let's know if I get the notifications.
Yes.
Oh, just got it.
I always
Hey,
listen for that. When you're not on the show, Jeff's like, "Yep, you're live." I'm used to hearing the
That sounded almost
ding.
like an earthquake warning. I've got earthquake apps.
All right.
Funny.
I'm gonna share this over to my page here.
Oh, this guy Jeff Fitzgerald's watching. I have no idea who that guy is.
He's a troublemaker, from what I hear.
And Stephen
Yeah,
Haywood, both of those.
yeah.
So is that.
I've heard that in a number of places.
So is that Lee Kelso guy. He's in here
Oh, is
too.
that Brad?
Hey,
Oh,
Lee.
Brad. Oh, dear Lord.
I see Brad's face popped in to Facebook.
No, all these guys are great guys.
Yep,
Let me
Lee
see.
Kelso. Hey, Lee. See
Going
his
on, Lee?
face there.
It's that time again. It's time for the On Social show. And guys, so we're gonna do a post show after this. We're gonna do a 10-minute post show. So if you have questions going forward with Wirecast, we want to spend 10 minutes and talk about a specific feature in Wirecast or an area in Wirecast that maybe you didn't know, or you can better your workflow, because a lot of you guys are using Wirecast. So we're working on something really cool though that's coming as a new show. So just stay tuned, because something's a brewing, and it's gonna be pretty awesome, I think. So that's as much as I can tell you right now.
That's called a tease in the business.
That's
Yes,
exactly either that or it's classified information, right?
it's fringe benefit of those that come out to the pre-show, right?
There you go. Right? Yes.
Yes,
That's why you want to be
exactly.
in the pre-show.
Yeah. So there's a
Hey,
benefit for
Rob and Joel.
there's a benefit to watch live. You guys get to see the post show where we'll do the Wirecast, kind of dive in, and each week each of us will do something different, or we'll bring up a special feature that that we have kind of perfected, if you will, within Wirecast. So I know in the upcoming weeks, once Jeff gets his gearbox back, Jeff and Marty will spearhead a chroma key, because you guys know they got awesome chroma keys. So I'm gonna let them spearhead that.
There you go. Lee Kelso's on the road watching us.
Nice.
Mobile.
So I do want to tell you guys this, and it's all Marty's fault. So I had my developer, since, as you guys know, Flash is dead as of the end of this year, right? And probably the next couple of months. So the techbuzz.net/live, if you watch, because we do stream the show on my website on the live. If you are on mobile and you want to get the great feed, if you're not on Facebook or whatnot, you can watch it there, because it is now HTML5. There's no more Flash. That's gone. We're done with it. We've moved on. So that's all updated, and the Roku app is going to be getting updated in the next couple months to their new, I guess they got a whole new sprite. I guess that's the language everything's done in. It's a whole new get-up setup. So that's going to be all updated. So things are progressing as we're moving forward. We're going to get these shows into a podcast. I know we've been saying that for a while, but we're waiting on a server. Once that's done, we're going to start getting these podcasts as audio and video, so you guys can download it if you missed the show. It's going to be all over the place. Spotify, Pandora, you name it. It's going to be there. So we're not just going to cater to Apple, but we're going to get it there.
Man.
So, hey, Steve, I think it was 10 years ago, I was on a panel about whether Flash was going to die. And I was one, there were 7 people. I was the only one that was representing Flash, because I was a Flash programmer for a while.
Oh.
And I was like, you're nuts. It's 99% ubiquity everywhere. There's no way. And it's like 3 years later, Steve Jobs kind of killed it off. And I'm amazed at it. For what it did, it was actually nice, because it kept conformity everywhere. But now we got all this wonderful CSS and HTML, and the world's a different place. But yeah, it's an amazing moment in the world of web to hear that Flash is going by the wayside for good. I mean, it hasn't been used a lot lately, but
well, it's Marty's fault, because he's like, because I was doing a lot of updates to the website. you really need to get that Flash player changed out to HTML5. I'm like, dang it, he's right. I've been like
Yeah, yeah.
putting it on the side, the back burner, and finally, yep, we got it taken care of, and you know, um, we are now moving up in the world. So
There you go. You're in the 21st century now.
yeah, I never thought anything would replace. I was like Jeff. I didn't think any. I mean, when I first started,
Yeah.
and I was talking tech 12 years ago. So I've been doing this. It'll be 14 years in March that I've been doing this.
Wow.
So 12 years ago, after I started, 2 years after I started, I was doing radio for Party 93.4 FM out of Hudson Valley, New York. It was funny because it was an all techno dance station, but they wanted,
Nice.
but they want, because it's Party, get it, Party 93.4, but they wanted a tech show on there for Monday morning commute and Friday evening. And I'm like, really? You want a tech show? And they're like, yeah, all the cool gadgets people can go out and buy now that they got paid. So we did that show religiously for almost a year and a half.
Wow.
Monday mornings, and Fridays. It was from 6 to 7 a.m. Eastern, and then we did it Friday nights right at power hour. It was like,
So what
5
what I
o'clock
want to know
to
is
6.
what was your DJ name?
The Tech Buzz. I mean, we had, so what I did was I had Skype, and I had everybody call in on Skype that were my co-hosts. We had like 4 guys, and I would stream it with my video, but their audio would just I wasn't advanced yet. So we would talk, and we would do the radio program, and we used to talk about Flash and say how, oh, it'll never die. Everybody's in this live streaming stuff. It's never gonna. They can't replace it. And here it is, 12 years later. Google
Well,
and them
I have
said,
to admit, in the
done.
pre-show here, I think the bigger surprise isn't Flash now that I hear that you were a DJ doing house music.
No, I wasn't
I
doing
think
a house.
that's
I was
cool
doing a
for us.
talk show, just like we're doing now.
On
A
a-
talk show on a
On
house
a techno station.
station, a techno. That was the funny part. The station manager found the show, found the podcast, and said, "Hey, we want you to bring the Tech Buzz to the show." I also did some call-in spots for a radio station in Tucson, Arizona, where I actually predicted Apple Music a week
Oh.
before the launch and what direction they were going to go, and they had me on the show, and they followed it up. That's how I got to be brought back as a tech pundit, if you will.
That's awesome.
I predicted what Apple was going to do, and was researching a lot, and a lot of the rumors came true because radio people don't dig into that stuff. They're just like, they want you to be the expert.
Yeah, basically.
So that's how I got a couple radio gigs, just being, again, knowing my craft and doing my stuff, right? So
That's putting it out there. Yeah.
So it was kind of funny. So some of these guys, they probably remember when I did those shows. Oh, they were awful. I even have some of them recorded, and
Wow.
the audio was just awful. But people loved it. They tuned in. My developer to this day, and I met him in person for the first time last year at NAB at Tom Sinclair Streaming Idiots meetup at the PTZ Optics booth. I have known him for 12 years, and he found me because of that radio station.
Wow.
That's cool.
So, small world, right?
Yep.
But
Well, it's the thing about the world. Yeah, I mean, the more you put yourself out there in an authentic way, you've got more opportunity.
exactly. All right, guys, we're going to get started here. And remember, stick around afterwards for the post show. We got about 10 minutes. We're going to go over some Wirecast stuff, so it'll be really cool. We're going to go dark, and we're going to get this party started. No pun intended. Hey guys, it's that time again. It's time for On Social, the show that talks about everything that has to do with social media, marketing, video, live video, professional live video on social media. And today we've got a great show planned for you. But before we get to that, we've got the world traveler back with us, Mr. Marty McPadden from PodJam.tv. Welcome.
It's been a while. I've been gallivanting a little bit. So yeah.
You've been living in the shade in Miami, right?
Well, that was one week, and then last week I was in New York City.
Yeah,
And,
rub it
yeah.
in. Rub it in. And we also have with us the two-time, he's going to get mad at me for saying this, the two-time Emmy Award winner, as you can see on his lower third. We've got Jeffrey Fitzgerald from JeffandHighDef.tv. Welcome.
Hey, it's always good to be here. I'm starting a Facebook group, by the way, for, like Elvis sightings. They're Marty sightings. People say they may have seen him in New Jersey and Hoboken, and then there's Atlanta or whatever. But it's good that all of us can get back here for a rarity, it seems like.
Well, and it's we've kind of holding on to this topic because this is a topic that I know is near and dear to Marty and your heart, and my heart as well, because we see this every day as guys that are in video production in the social media world, is guys gaming the system. And what it does is, and I want to preface this before we get into it, is gaming the system is bad because it ruins it for guys that are loyal and dedicated to their craft like us. Because what happens is these people burn companies because they make themselves out to be something that they're not. And it really hurts the companies and the brands that they're working with. And if if you can identify this, it'll help you and your brand be more successful. I mean, that's what we've been talking about the last couple of months, about your brand being more successful, how to get your content. And Marty, I kind of want you to kick this off because you are what everybody has wanted over the last year and a half. Is you're verified on Twitter, and he hates when I say this, but I'm going to go there anyways. He is deemed an influencer because part of his job is to influence the market. He does marketing. It's what he does. He gets paid to do this, and he's not persuaded by the almighty dollar. He's worked hard. He's gained the accolades that he's gotten. And I want you to kind of talk about the experience that you've seen about people getting verified, and you just kind of shake your head. What does that do to that check mark? What does it do to the authenticity of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny with that kind of stuff. I kind of see it as a resume. And the reason I'm using that as an analogy is I think a lot of people see a resume as the be all end all of getting a job, and it really isn't. It's really a starting point. It's really a way to introduce yourself. So if you're interviewing for a job, you put your resume in and hopefully it gets noticed, and it's a sort of a conversation. When you mentioned, getting verified on a social media platform, that it's sort of like the facade of the house. It looks nice, may or may not be real. I don't know. If you can back it up, that's great. But if you're just doing it, I know there are people that strive to get followers or get verified on whatever platform just for the sake of doing it, thinking that it gives them gravitas or gives them authority just for that, without having anything to back it up. And I've used this analogy before, Stephen, where kind of use the house analogy with the foundation and then you build the house and all that stuff. If it's just the check mark and you have nothing else underneath it, there's no foundation, then you might it might stay up for a while. It's like almost like a movie set where you have that false front, but eventually there's nothing supporting it. So it comes crumbling down. So if you don't have anything supporting, that verification or whatever it is, in fact, I see it much more less important. I mean, it may get you a starting of a conversation. People may give you a second look, but then you have to have that conversation. I talk about this in business where, say you're closing a business deal, and Jeff, and I think you can probably identify with this, you might be able to get that introduction, and then the actual business deal doesn't happen on social media or in the open. You're not doing a presentation to a bunch of people. You're going to have a private conversation. And then you're going to think, just like in a job interview, and either you got the goods or you don't. And then you got to provide and you got to actually follow through. And then you're building it up, and, it's so, it's like, don't get stuck on those marks, because if you don't have the goods to follow up and to prove that you deserve that, and you can deliver, then you're going to do you more harm than good, certainly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for me, I think, I have so many thoughts about this on so many different levels. I think that for me, it starts with when you game the system, any system, it's a character issue. There's something deeper going on than just the fact that maybe you're looking for a couple thousand extra eyeballs on your content. And when if you looked at it as a metaphor of you're now in the Staples Center in LA and all the lights go dark and there's 15,000 people in there and there's a spotlight on the middle of the court and they hand you the microphone, that's where your value is going to come to play. It's not the fact that people have gathered to kind of see something, because those, a lot of times, I've said this many times, we look at likes and follows almost like people are signing up to be part of our Braveheart army. We're going to take the mountain. And in reality, how many times are you clicking like as you still are scrolling to
Right.
something else, right? It's a momentary acknowledgement of, hey, that was kind of cool. And so I think there's a sobriety that needs to kind of happen there. And I think that when you try to game in any way, shape, or form, it's really a form of manipulation. And who wants to start off a relationship with a tribe or a customer or anybody for that matter, starting off that way? That's not going to end well.
No, I kind of I agree with that. I know Marty, you're big on that too. Working with customers that have integrity. You as a person, I think everybody should have integrity, but we don't always see that. And I guess I look at it. I'm working with some guys I've talked about this in past episodes with the retro gaming stuff. We're seeing this boom, and I have some suspicions that there's some guys that are gaming the system, because I'm watching their YouTube subscription just kind of jump without them really doing a whole lot. Like, and I say jump by like the thousands every couple days. Like
Mm.
that just it doesn't happen when you look at the metrics between how many views they're getting, how many interactions and comments. It just doesn't add up to a guy like me, who I don't really put a lot of emphasis into my YouTube channel about driving people there to subscribe over the last, almost 14 years. Like I said, that's more of like I drive people to my website. The YouTube channel, the Twitter, the Instagram, that's kind of like my secondary stuff. And I see a lot of guys, like, they put all this effort into, YouTube. But when they go to the companies go, well, where's your website? Where's your footprint? They go, oh, I don't have that. But I'm an influencer on YouTube. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, I
bad.
mean that's a word that is obviously subjective. I think that we're living in a world where we see so many people, so many young people especially, having the nickel-sized plastic diamond earring, and she's carrying the fake Gucci purse.
Yeah.
Um, I think what's really happening in a lot of this is that there's a digital gold rush that's been going on, but the gold is not all in their hills everywhere. It's very, very narrow to find a real win, to really find a connection that's meaningful as an influencer, or really just in business in general. You've really got to work at it. And so I think that just knowing that a lot of people, they want to try to cut to the end of the line and it never works. So
Well, and that's that.
It's
I
it,
want you guys to think about something going through here, Marty. And I want you to kind of dive into your notes here, because you got some great points here to bring
Mhm.
up. But I want you to think about this, about what you could say to potential brands, companies at the end of this broadcast, of how they can tell who's gaming it and who's not gaming it. And I think Marty, yeah, Marty's smiling because he knows, because I think this is going to be valuable to you guys that are watching this, whether you're a company, whether you're somebody building your brand because you want to do it right. So,
yeah, I work in the influencer marketing arena with agencies and brands, not necessarily as a direct influencer for myself. I work in the production areas and that type of thing. So I have a lot of interaction with that. And I can tell you, when this influence marketing stuff first started, companies were very naive. They would be, you can kind of fake it, and you hear fake it till you make it. But you kind of fake it with a lot of the, vanity metrics. You can kind of game the followers, the views, the verifications, and a lot of these companies would be like, oh yeah, he's great, and they would just like hire them, and they would be off and running, and they really wouldn't do the due diligence necessary. Now, it's no longer a secret that, oh, you can maybe make some money in this. Oh, this is pretty, and it's glamorous, and you can go to these events and this and that. Now there's everyone in the game, and now these companies, I can tell you, I work with these companies. They are much more sophisticated because they are making a financial commitment as part of their marketing. And so, believe me, companies, anybody who makes an investment wants to see return on that investment. They're not going to just give money for nothing. So if you're legit and you actually are an influencer, that's why, I'm going to kind of go into my second point here. Honesty and authenticity is everything. Certainly, my second point in my notes is there's no substitute for hard work. I hate to break it to everybody, but it takes hard work and dedication to make it in whatever area of expertise you want to be an expert in, or your area of interest. I mean, Stephen, I always bring you up as an example because you have such a long track record of going for, in the live streaming area, the video, the technology area. You taught yourself, you built that foundation, and you put the hard work into it. You didn't look for the quick start guide. You didn't want the, what do I need to do to just kind of get that, game the system and get noticed right away.
Hmm.
Because if you do that, that it's really it's not going to have any lasting success, because it's all going to be stripped away. There's nothing holding up the foundation. So, nothing great happens when you refuse to do the work. I mean, it's like, and when you're learning, like I'll bring myself up for an example. I'm a video editor. I edit podcasts and all. I'm constantly trying to learn my craft, and a lot of it is just due diligence, practicing,
Yeah.
getting better. It's like learning a musical instrument, right? You're not a virtuoso overnight. You just got to put the work in, and hopefully you pick something you enjoy because you like doing the work. But if you don't put the work in and learn how things are, or learn how things work, you're just not going to be able to success long term.
And Jeff, you didn't just wake up one day and start talking and be a great speaker and video editor. I mean, you've been doing this for years. I mean, you said you did this on radio and in the past, so you put in your time.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite, saying is I never met a microphone I didn't like. So I guess that says something about wanting to do it. But yeah, I love what Marty said, because I think that there are so many who are not realizing that when you game, or however we want to define that word, whatever it is for you, that when you know that you're trying to buy value, it's because you don't have any. Nobody goes out and buys eggs when they've got a lot of eggs and milk and everything else, right? You have to understand that when you're doing that, that's a sign that maybe you should slow that down and turn toward learning, turn toward networking, turn toward mentors, get in front of people who can help you get where you're going, because you do have value. You have a lot of value, but you either don't understand it or you don't know how to articulate it. One of those two things might be going on. And so you're thinking, hey, I'm going to, find a Facebook page in China and pay somebody to, say nice things about me. Well,
Right.
we know that that doesn't work on any level. And I'll give you a real quick example of what this reminds me of. 25 years ago, I was teaching at a cable access station, and it's where I met my future wife. And there was a gentleman running through there who had changed his name to Christopher Royce, I guess kind of like Rolls Royce. He wore suspenders and the bow tie. He was a motivational speaker like Matt Foley. And he would take these big pictures in front of these beautiful mansions and these nice cars. He had the big watch, except the house was not his. He would pull in front of somebody's house in one of the ritzier neighborhoods, rented the car for an hour. The watch was borrowed. And the pinnacle of all this is that he approached my wife at one point and said, "Hey, I want you to come on my show and talk about how my book changed your life." And she's like, "Great, when can I get a copy?" He goes, "I haven't written it yet." And that's exactly where a lot of people are today. They think that there's really no value. It's just people are just getting lucky somehow, and it's just a celebrity status, star power that'll get you there. That's what might maintain you, a big personality, but you got to have something that everybody would love to get a little bit of value out, because you do have value. And if you can share that with the world, you'll actually see people coming forward one or two at a time saying, "Hey, that was kind of cool." That'll build your confidence. You'll be, maybe work toward a bigger message or a bigger calling. But I'm a big believer in vision. I think you got to start with vision in your message, and hopefully you're not trying to write books or sell books that haven't been written yet. So,
Well, and before we get to Marty's other point, one of the things that you mentioned, Marty, about and Jeff, you even said about bringing value, right? So even the outdoor space that I had been building over the last 2 years, I got involved with a cooler company, one that makes like coolers and tumblers and things like you guys have seen, like Yeti coolers. There's different ones out there. But the company that I started with, I started as a what they call a pro staffer, and what that doesn't mean is you're pro. It's professional staffer or a promotional staffer, is what it is, because you're basically a glorified you're promoting them. That's you're glorified marketing guy for them. They're providing you product. You're going out and you're promoting it. So what they found was because of the influence, I guess you can say, people liked the brand. They liked my brand, and we started putting our logo on their products, and they started selling. So then they invited me to become what's called a partner, right? So, or a collaborator. So now they built a store on their website of a bunch of different coolers. Those of you that follow me on Instagram, you've probably seen tumblers with our logo on it. And they have been branding merchandise, hats, because it's selling. Did I go out there and say, hey, I'm an influencer, you need to do this for me? No, I started at the ground level, went in just like everybody else, but I allowed the work to show it. I didn't go in there and make promises I couldn't keep. I just basically said, look, this is what my following is right now. Take a chance with me. Let me on this pro staff, and it'll do the work. And, you know, um, just to kind of prove this, last month I made $1,500 in royalties. Now, some people might say, well, that's not a lot of money. But for a brand that's under 2 years old, I would say that's pretty good money for royalties on
Right.
products that all I have to do is promote it. All I have to do is say, hey, look it. My logo is on this, on this cooler or whatever. Go buy it. Looks great. So there's something what you're saying, Marty, about putting in your time and doing the work, because you have to make a name for yourself. You got to present. He's 100% right. You got to make yourself valuable. That's why we've been able to do this on the show. The Telestream knows that we know what we're talking about when it comes to broadcasting. And so because of them, and we're thankful for that they've allowed us to do this show. And I'm going to take this opportunity right now to talk about a product that we think you all should try. If you're a fan of the On Social show here, if you head over to telestream.net/onsocial and then go up to the products category, there is a product that we really think that you guys should go out and try, and it's called Wirecast. If you want to have the professional video that you're seeing right here, we encourage you guys to start with Wirecast 1. It's $249. It's a product that each one of us here are using right now in our productions. We've gone as far as we've got Wirecast Pro, we've got the Wirecast gearboxes. I mean, we've gone full-fledged. But maybe $249 is not where you're at right now. Like, you don't have the whistles and bells. You're just kind of like, I'm still learning. If you've got an iPhone, and I don't know, do you guys use the Wirecast Go app? And I think it's $5 if you want to go to RTMP. You could stack some
awesome.
layers on your phone. You can add graphics. Get in. I'm telling you. I mean, there's a way that you can produce video even using your phone for the audience here on Social, and then graduate up to a desktop application that's $249. And honestly, guys, I wish it was that cheap when I started, because Wirecast Pro was like $1,000, man.
I paid over 1,000. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a great introductory price, and you can grow, and you don't have the learning curve when you go to different versions. You get more features. So that's one of the cool things that Telestream has done. And again, we're really thankful for Telestream to allow us to do this show. And we encourage you guys to go download the trial. If you have any questions, hit one of us up. Telestream's also got a great group of folks in the support and sales that they can also answer any questions that you have. But again, we really appreciate it, and just wanted to kind of give them a shout out. But Marty, let's kind of get back to what do you have? Your third point here, right?
Yes. Just to kind of put a capper on before I get to the third point, we talked a lot about gaming, and you may be able to fool people for a short time, but when your truth is revealed, it's over, and that's kind of what you were presenting, Stephen. It's just not worth it. You just got to put the work in, because once you lose if you're building community and it's not really built on reality, people are going to find out, and once you lose that trust, because a lot of this stuff is based on trust, it's all over. Even if you try to do it again, it's all, and if you're on Facebook and if you're into this space, you've seen the stories out there, and it's just not worth it. You may be able to string people along for a while, But if you're looking for a long-term relationship, it's not going to last. So the final point I want to kind of cover here is talk a little bit about, well, if you're not gaming the system, what's the best way to go? And it's really, as I said, putting the work in. Fundamentals are really the key to building a solid foundation of success. I mean, I use the house analogy a lot. Um, again, if you have a house and you don't have a solid foundation, you have a problems with your foundation. It's probably one of the worst things you can have. Uh, then you run the risk of the actual structure, losing integrity and coming down, or you really having serious damage. It may look good for a while. You may be able to put some repairs up, but over time, the whole thing's going to come down because you don't have that solid foundation. I- you know, a lot of people, they want that quick start guide. It's not necessarily glamour. Even if hopefully you like the space that you're in. You
Mhm.
enjoy doing what you're doing. Um, it may not be glamour, like, and I'll use myself an example: video editing. It's not the most glamorous thing in the world to really learn your nonlinear editor and learning all the techniques and practicing it and getting better and learning techniques, learning different edits, actually going through the process. It's not the most glamorous thing in the world. It can be a little bit boring. It's repetitious, but especially if you're doing it for a business, it's imperative that you do not only delivering a good product, but also your integrity
Mhm.
and your reputation is everything, right? So you have to do that. I would also say this: commit to a life long learning. You may get to a certain level where you're like, say, a video editor, you're comfortable with whatever platform that you're using, and you're proficient, and you can even consider yourself an expert at some level. But things are always changing. Stephen and I and Jeff, we talk about this all the time. In the live video space, it's always changing. You always have to be learning. Any profession, you always got to be committed to learning the new things.
That's right.
And again, getting back to this, a solid foundation will lead to lasting success and will cement your reputation with your audience community. I kind of live by that. It's very true. It's the longer road. It's the way to long term success. You may be tempted by that quick start guide. Well, yeah, when you buy a new piece of electronic equipment, what's the first thing to pull out? It's always that quick start one sheeter, right? That you want to get the TV up and running.
You
All
you
well and
you
good.
actually you actually pull those out?
I do, because you get impatient. You want to get it up and running,
Yeah.
which is fine.
Then you
Get it up
break
and running.
something.
Yeah, make sure you go back and Stephen, we've done this with like troubleshooting, right? Because we know what we're doing. It's
Yeah.
not the most glamorous stuff in the world, but then again, you can replicate it. You know what you're doing, and over time, you
Yep.
get better, and then you can actually replicate it and put it together. So.
I know. Jeff, what's your thoughts on that?
Oh, I think he hit every one of those points out of the park. I think when we look at people who are trying to do something like this, even before they get to the point where they want to be an influencer, or maybe they're thinking they're getting it, toward that realm with their value. You got to look at what other people, just everyday people, look at as somebody who would be able to influence them. It's actually somebody who doesn't know all the answers, who doesn't know everything, who has some great perspective or insight to offer, and they can throw it out there and you can chew on it and think about it. But the real influencers in our life are people that most often would never know that they're an influencer to us, because they're just them. That's the whole you
Mhm.
being you, authenticity 101 on live streaming. And we all met on Blab, 4 years ago. I can't believe that it's been that long. I can think of a 23-year-old life coach who he had three letters after his name. I think it was like CSD or something like this, and it was like common sense dude. But he made it look like he was actually this guy who knew all these things. Cheer him on, great. You could try that, but it didn't go very well because people were basically eating him up every time he went live. They're like, dude, what are you doing? And he didn't prepare. So the moral of that story is, if you're really going to do something like this, stay in your lane, find something you really do know some things about in a unique way, in a unique perspective where you can actually share with other people, because they're going to gravitate to you because they are like, okay, this guy's got some angle here I haven't thought about before. But yeah, Blab was a nice breeding ground for every person to move up the LinkedIn ladder, so to speak. They would enter Blab as a mailroom employee, and then the next day they were CEO. So there's a little bit of a walk in between there in
Well,
real life. So
I think that's where I really was awoken to the gaming the system, where I really learned that there's people out there that actually game the system. Because these people that claim to be video experts, and it was hilarious because Marty, I mean, we make jokes about this, like get your popcorn, but literally myself, Marty, and Brad, a gentleman that's in the chat, we would get on Skype and watch these shows that supposed experts eating our popcorn and sitting there and like, oh my, and we wouldn't say anything in the chat room. We wouldn't like troll them or anything.
We're not into trolling. We don't
No,
do
we
that.
were sitting there going like,
right.
now and Marty would sit there and use it and say, look, now this is a prime example of somebody that's gaming the system. And all you would do is, if somebody asked you, should I go pay so and so much money, we would say, you know what, that it's your decision, but I really don't think they know as much as they say or think. I would ask them XYZ questions and see how they respond. And then when they would do that, they would respond like they didn't have the answer. They realized, maybe so and so expert really wasn't
Oops.
so and so expert, right? So
Well, I mean, but even the word expert is subjective, right? I mean, for me, I accept people in their journey wherever they're at. They may not be where I'm at in a place, or I may, especially with my bass playing, and there's Brad Llewellyn out there, people who know how to play. So I get it when people are still trying to give to their community, give to their world, even when they're maybe not at a place that somebody else is. That we're not on a totem pole system, right? But at the same time, I think you have to just be aware that all of us crave identity, purpose, security, and acceptance. And if you're not delivering value in one of those four silos, most likely you're not going to get anywhere in the long run. And so people who don't really think about meaningful content, meaningful value, they end up trying some other crazy thing. And they're working at
and
Hardee's a couple years
and
later.
that's the problem. Like you're exactly right. Everybody's like, I always feel like I'm learning every day. I learn something new all the time.
Absolutely.
These guys call themselves experts, and to somebody that, like, if I know more than you, you might consider me an expert, or if you know more than me, I might consider you an expert in that. But that's a personal opinion of somebody. Like, hey, you need to talk, like we always say,
Right.
hey, you need to talk to John Mahoney. You want to know anything NDI, go talk to John Mahoney. He's an
Right.
expert at that. That's something that we've said about him. He didn't say that about himself. But there are people out there that say, hey, I'm an expert in all this, and there's nothing I don't know. And those are the guys, I think we'd all agree, those are the guys you really got to watch out for, because they don't look at it the same way we see
That's
it.
my red flag.
Yeah.
When you
Yeah.
self-described that's the red flag. It's like, it's like, to me, if someone wants to call you an expert, that's up to them. That's their judgment. And if they see value, and also there's different levels, right? So someone, like, if we're helping someone with live video question and they're just starting out, it could be the very basic stuff. And to them, that's expert material. We also might be dealing with someone that's very advanced, and there might be something we don't know. And to them,
Yeah.
we're not such an expert.
Right.
It's all relative, right? So that's why it's very dangerous to be self-described, because it's really not up to you. It's about the value that others see in it.
Yeah.
It's not you. I mean, so it's like, I always stay away from it. I just move forward.
You
And
mean
let
you don't have
others
that in
decide.
that didn't help you get Twitter verified? You didn't have that in your profile on Twitter, that you were an expert in video and
No,
video production?
I
And
have no idea. It's weird because I have no idea. Yeah, I just submitted my application, and I
you
don't
know
know.
what? I just realized something. That's why I didn't get verified. Because back in 2013, when I was on the cover of the magazine Business Chronicle, I didn't put that in my Twitter profile.
Oh yeah,
That's what it was. I believe
yeah,
it. I think that's what it was.
I used to work for ESPN, so I think that maybe has something to do with it. So,
But I don't.
yeah.
So wow, you didn't put that in your profile bio though.
I did.
So, oh,
I
you
did.
did.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know. I don't know. That could have been it. I think at the time they were taking applications. I think that had some bearing. They would kind of zero in on media connections, So I'm just guessing. I don't know at all. So.
So you just
Well, at least be thankful. Back in the day, there were actually humans looking at this stuff, right? It's all
Yeah.
it sounds like,
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm obviously I'm joking, but everybody has different accolades that they could list, and I think that the accolades, like even I mentioned about the magazine cover. I have it framed. I have it on my wall, but it's not just to sit there and be pompous like I'm on a magazine. It's an inspiration for me when I come into the studio and I see it, and I have it right
There
so
you
I can see it when I come in the studio, to inspire me to say, look where you've been, look where you've come from,
Right.
and the
It's
future looks
validation.
bright. That's all it's there for. It's not for. I don't even bring when people come into the studio. If people see it, they see it. I don't go like, "Hey, look, I was on the cover of a magazine." I don't do that. That is more for inspiration for me to kind of say, "Okay, I'm making strides. I'm making progress. I'm moving forward. What are we going to create today?" Type of thing.
It's
It's
a great way to
it's
look at it.
self motivation. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I also hang up. You guys can't see it, but over here to my left, I have every badge that I've ever gotten at a trade show that I've gone to. And some people say, well, so what? It's a badge, a trade show. I've been to 20, I've got 50 of them. I look at that as accomplishments all the way back to the very first one that I've gone to. And I look at the different changes and the different brands that I've gone with and how I've gotten there. And again, it's inspiration. Like, just keep trucking hard. And I have different things like
Yeah.
that throughout the studio.
Yeah. Steve, you bring up a good point. Maybe that's a topic for a future show, because I think what you're really talking about is going back in your own journey, your own timeline, and finding those milestones that had meaning, had some real, and I don't want to keep overusing the word value, but to you, they're valuable. They validate you, right? And I think it's really important to really look at how far you wherever you are in your live stream or just journey in life, to go back and really look at, man, wow, so far I'm 100% for surviving every day that I didn't think I was going to survive. And I think there's a lot of value in that. And if you strive for having influence versus being an influencer, you're probably on the right track.
I think you're right. I think we need to cover something like that. But I think when I look at this, that doesn't tell me I'm an influencer or anything. It just tells me I'm on the right path. That's the only validation that I need. I don't need
Sure.
somebody to sit there and tell me you're an influencer. And it's great if they do, but it's not. That's not my validation. All the hard work hangs from those badges. All the hard work is in that magazine. All the hard work is some of the other accolades that I have that people don't know about. Um, those are the things that for myself that I hold on to when I look around and I go, dang, I have done a lot. When on the days that we've all been there, we feel like quitting. You just, why am I doing this? Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's something to keep in mind. So don't get, I guess the bottom line here is, don't get overwhelmed with, hey, I'm not an influencer status. I'm not verified. Companies aren't looking at me. Just put in the work and it will come. It's like Marty says to me all the time, the cream rises to the top, right? So if you put in the hard work, you'll rise to the top, and there's nothing that can stop it. It's just the way it is. You put in your work, you do your due diligence. We're gonna kind of leave you with that, and wrap this up. But Jeff, as always, thanks for joining us. Jeff in High Def, you can check him out, jeffinhighdef.tv. What's the major project that you're working on right now? A live show? What do we got going on here?
Oh, I was up till 4 o'clock in the morning editing. I'm editing a promo video for the former lead singers of the Temptations, the Four Tops, the Platters, and the Drifters. And I do a lot of work with PR companies, and I've had a wonderful opportunity to put together a tour tape, basically to get them in new venues and things. And I went to their show in Alexandria at a what I would call like one of these old 1940 style nightclubs about a week ago, and was absolutely blown away by how good these gentlemen are. Some of them are a little older now in their 70s, but man, they've got the sound and the style, and they're still killing it. It's called The Voices of Classic Soul, and you can look them up online. It's just an incredible thing. So hopefully the video will be up here in the next week, and you'll have it there too.
Well, hopefully, because we'd like to see it. We could probably show it on here and kind of show
Yeah,
some of your
yeah,
work. That'd be really awesome. Also, want to thank
yeah. I would love it.
Mr. Marty McPadden from Podjam.tv. And any trips in the future here?
I'm home next week, and I think it's the week after, second week of March. I'm in Chicago for an event.
Yeah, and then he's
Never stop.
he'll be out there, and so we'll keep up with Marty's travels. Hopefully, he can put a video together and show us some of the things that he's been working on. And guys, really appreciate you guys coming out. And for those that are watching live, stay tuned for the post show as we get into some of these tips really quick on Wirecast. But we appreciate you stopping in, tuning in. Go check out the YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to Wirecast Tube and Telestream Tube on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter at Telestream and at Wirecast, and also on Instagram. You can find us everywhere Telestream and Wirecast is found. Guys, if you want to follow me, just look me up. I'm the Tech Buzz pretty much everywhere. And we will see you next time here for On Social. Let's get some audio on. All right, let me start the recording again. I'm not running an intro or anything like that. I'm just going to hit the record button. So one of the things that we wanted to kind of do for these post shows, if you will, is we wanted to focus on Wirecast tips. I know a lot of you guys that are in here, and I know Joe's the Hiatus. He's in the Discord chat. A lot of you guys are using Wirecast, and like we mentioned during the show, Jeff, myself, and Marty are using Wirecast. And guys, I thought today we could spend a little time on the Wirecast UI. And if you missed this last week, we kind of went over the bandwidth, the bit rate. We went over the encoder presets, things like that to understand. But I want people to understand how this works. This is the layering system. I think this is one of the most important things inside of Wirecast that I think hang people up a lot. And a lot of people, the first question they ask is how do you get those colors in there? So let's back up a little bit and let me go into and turn my colors off here under, I believe it's shot display here. So you might be presented with Wirecast that looks like that, stock Wirecast, or it maybe it's default. This is the default look, if you remember. If you go under your preferences, the same place you put your serial number in, and you go under theme, you could change the theme to the X keys. And I like to do this especially when I'm training volunteers, because guys, it helps them understand how this layering system works. I know the three of us are very familiar with Photoshop. We're very familiar with linear editing and how timelines work and how putting things on a timeline affect where those elements appear in that particular project, right? So I'm going to kind of demonstrate how I kind of do it in Wirecast, and then I want you guys to jump in if you do it differently, to give people some ideas of how these dynamics actually work, right? So the first one here, and this is what I usually do for the training, is that the blue master layer is going to be your most dominant layer. So that means anything you put on that layer is going to be dominant over anything else on any of the other layers. It's going to be your most dominant layer. And most of the time, Jeff and Marty, I don't know if you guys do this, but I usually put like a bug. So like I'm just going to kind of take, this little picture that I have here, and I'm going to scale it down. In the broadcast world, this is what they call a bug or a dog, or something of that nature. You guys see it on here. We have the On Social logo. This is going to be prominent on every video that we put out, right? And usually the second most master layer, because I try to work off of 3 if I can, I usually put like a lower third, right? So I'll go under overlays, and let's see if I can find a title. I'm just going to add any title that's default. I'm just going to grab this one. This looks like it would go all right with that. So I have my title, and then on the third master layer, I'm going to add my camera. It's going to be my FaceTime camera that's built into this computer, as you guys will be able to see here in just a second. There you see me. So we've got 3 elements now composed on the Wirecast. So you have additional master layers. I try to work off of this. But if you notice, we're not getting any audio. Obviously, we're not going to get this audio because it's not routed to this computer. But if I want to use my built-in microphone audio, what I like to do is I like to click the sprocket in the bottom corner, change audio, and then I'm going to choose my MacBook Pro audio. So now I'm working off of 3 master layers. So if I want, I can configure keyboard shortcuts, which we'll get to in another post show. or I can just click with 3 buttons. So this is why I like to do it this way. If I add an element, like a video element that I've recorded, and the audio for my mixer or my microphone's tied to my camera shot, I don't have to worry about running to my mixing board, hitting mute on my microphone as I push that media live. So that's one of the reasons understanding this timeline and understanding a good workflow will help you in your production. So one of the reasons I like to put a lower third on another master layer, because if you noticed, even on this show, we'll kind of do a cut and smooth. That's the 2 main transitions that we'll use in a show, mainly because that's what TV uses. So when I use a smooth transition, it's usually to pull a lower third off, just like that. To put it on, I'll do the same thing. I'll cue it up, and I'll leave the smooth transition. If I'm going from my camera shot to, say, Marty or Jeff's camera shot, it's a cut transition. So it's an instant, right in your face type of a switch. So almost like this. Boom. Lower third fades in. It's a quick shot right to it. So if I back and forth, it's a cut. It's a cut transition. So I don't know, guys. That's just a real down and dirty, really quick way of understanding the layering system, because I like to keep my branding on videos, on everything, because there are people on YouTube that will hijack your video as their own to create their own channel. But if you have your logo embedded over a tutorial or something like that, you really can't get rid of it. So anything in that workflow that you guys do personally different, and if you do it different, why do you do it different?
Well, I tell you, the most obvious thing that I do a little different is you made a great point about the audio, that the audio in each layer source shot will follow when you select, it will follow that particular video. I actually like doing it the reverse, the opposite. I will create an audio source on the bottom layer, and that's the only thing on the bottom layer, because all of my audio is coming through the main mixer behind me,
Okay.
and I'm controlling it with other hardware to be able to do that rather than relying on Wirecast to do it. So for me, it's just nice to have one area where I know that primary audio is not going to change on me. And I totally agree. For me, I put my pre-rolls, the things I'm going to play, like the countdown or a video, a promo video. I'll put those on the very top layer, kind of my pre-show material, and then underneath that, there's the bugs. I do a clock sometimes with the logo on it. And then down from there, you've got the lower thirds that you've either built in Photoshop, or now I'm doing a lot with a new Blue Tyler Live for work we're going to be doing with it. And then, beyond that, you get into those compositional shots. Now you've got your 2-shot, your 1-shot, those kind of things. And then the bottom layer is that audio layer there. And it seems to work out really well. And as long as you understand the idea of peeling back onions, that what's on top will, like you said, be dominant, it's fairly straightforward and pretty easy to do.
But I think a lot of people get hung up on that, and
Yeah.
the layering system. Marty, what about you? Anything different in the workflow from your standpoint?
Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about layering too, but I tend to use a lot of composite shots, meaning that I will actually create the shot and use the layers within individual shots and
Yes.
lay them across a single timeline. But I think the thing with the Wirecast interface is very, very unique. It's not a traditional TV switcher. For those that
Well,
are
wait.
used
Let me
to
stop. Let me
reading,
stop you there real quick. So when you say a composite shot, you'll build the lower third and the bug inside of a single shot. Is that what you're stating?
exactly,
Okay, so I'm going to
exactly.
demonstrate that while you're talking, so people understand that. So
Okay.
that's a great method. That's another great method that people do to keep it simple. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Right. Right. I mean, what I mean about composite shots. So Steven demonstrated the layering technique, and again with the 5 layers, it's really just the layer. So the top layer is always on top. The second layer is always the second layer. So anything like and that's why you're putting the bug in the first layer, is because that's always going to be on top. It's almost like when you're looking at Windows on a computer. Whatever active window there is, it's always on top. And so that's important to recognize, and that's a very unique interface that Wirecast presents, and it actually makes it easy for people that are just starting out, because it's really different than what you would see in a traditional switcher. Now what Steven's demonstrating is, instead of using layers in the Wirecast timeline, I tend to create composite shots. So Steven just did it in that one shot. So on the left-hand side there in the panel, in the dialogue panel, you can see it's basically a bunch of layers, but on one single shot. And what I tend to do is I'll have two cameras and I'll switch between different shots. And I think this is especially a valuable technique if you're a single person doing everything. If you're a one-man band, you can create your shots and just put them on one layer. And especially if it's a simple show, you just have them right along. And say if you have a very choreographed show where you actually go through different shots throughout maybe you have a series of 5 or 6 shots that you go through the entire show. You can literally pre-program those and lay them out and then composite it, and go shot 1 is the first 5 minutes, shot 2, and you might have a simple show like that. That's one using the composite technique is one way to do it, and just simplify it for yourself. And then you can even get like a control server like X keys and just go right across and boom, 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 just hit each shot in sequence, and you're right there. But I tend to use the composite. I'm used to it. It's sort of like the ME on a traditional switcher, the mix effects bank on a switcher. I come from the TV side, so I'm used to that. So that's what's great about Wirecast is that you can treat it like a traditional switcher and use composite shots and kind of use MEs, or you can use the layers. Where people and to me, the layer interface for a beginner is probably a little easier to understand.
Yes.
Because at least people can understand, like, okay, this goes on top, this goes second, this goes third. It's not. I think the composite shots might be a little bit more advanced, but
Well, I think
but yeah, I mean
think
that's because you
I-
flexible work processes.
I think we want to get into that in the next couple weeks, and I want guys in the chat room. I want you guys to send an email, stevenh@telestream.net. Send me your requests, what you want to see us cover in this post show about Wirecast, a feature that really is stumping you. I see some guys in there talking about easy worship and how that's going to use NDI and screen capture and bring that in, and that's something we'll cover on another instance. Jeff, you did a really cool video about how to make, which we never got to show it, but how to make these composite shots that you're seeing right now, a 3-box within Wirecast or a 2-box. So
I would be more than happy to go over a lot of that. I've got some, I think, some good material to kind of go through. And I totally agree with Marty. For me, the thing that attracted me to Wirecast before I ever knew Telestream or anybody along those lines was I love the fact that the nesting actually worked. I was using another product that I don't want to mention, but I was doing chroma keying, and you could kind of do nesting, but when you would hit from one source to the next, you would get a milliframe of the green screen, and then the graphic would pop in the background, and then the lower would hit, and it has been bulletproof with Wirecast, and that's what I really love about it. That and the chroma key and the virtual camera are the 3 things that I can't live without. And so I think it's important to understand the power behind them, because as Marty said, when you pre-build these shots, if you take an hour or 30 minutes or whatever it might be and build a shot exactly the way you want with, like I said, for me on Video as Authority on LinkedIn, sometimes I have my little logo, I put a little clock over it. I've got the other lower thirds, but I'll pre-build all that except for the lowers. And then if I need to copy it, I'll duplicate that shot, make adjustments to it to change something else up. And this is where, if you're doing over the shoulders, you could do it that way by just changing out that one over the shoulder graphic. And literally, as Marty said, down the line, 4 or 5 of the what look like the same shot, you click between them. Now the only thing changing in that shot is just the over the shoulder. And you can add movement, all those kind of things. Now, there's a million ways to do it, right? That's certainly not the only way. You could just do the layer above it. But I think it's really important to really get a little deeper into the interface. I think the interface is strong. I would like personally to see an update at some point where the buttons are larger, where when you're streaming, you can tell that you're really streaming. It's visible, and that there's a lot of space now with the higher resolution monitors. But beyond that, if you really take a look at it, you can get really good at it fairly quickly, and it's pretty straightforward. So,
well, one of the things that I think we're going to do, we just to recap, we had 3 different professional broadcasters here that gave you 3 different workflows, how to use the layering system in Wirecast, and not one of them is wrong. It's just that's the way everybody does their own thing. So with those 3 solutions, you should be able to take that layering system and have a better understanding of how the layering system in Wirecast works and how you can make it work for yourself. What I want to show you next week along the lines of this layering system is how you can automate this. let's say you're a YouTuber, and I use that term very loosely, but I know everybody understands what that means. And you're trying to create a professional YouTube video, but you don't have the skill in the sense of you're new to the product and you don't want to be sitting there looking at it and clicking on it. You haven't gained your sea legs, so to speak, with it. Um, I can show you in a way in the playlist how you can automate changes in Wirecast to where your camera comes up, your lower third comes up after your intro, a bug will come up. It'll stay up for a certain amount of time because a lot of YouTubers, they'll read a script. They'll have a script in front of them on an iPad, or they'll do a voiceover. Most of your higher end ones will do that. So you're going to know how long it's going to take you to read through that. So you want to keep your camera up for 2 minutes. So you can automate the shots in a playlist, live cameras, as well as titles and graphics, so they pop up when they need to. And you could do a YouTube video by yourself, and it looks like you have a producer as long as you're staying on your time schedule, and maybe give yourself a buffer of 10 seconds on each side. But that's something, guys, I think we'll show next week. Show a little bit of just a real quick, throw an intro in there that's like our On Social one real quick. It cuts to your camera. It uses the transition. It'll bring up your lower third, just kind of how I do it. Because I use that a lot, believe it or not to give away a secret, but in my gaming show, I do that a lot when I'm playing the game because, well, when I'm at the arcade, I have a Stream Deck, but I don't want to be pressing all kinds of 50 buttons while I'm doing it. So I'll create a playlist that runs my intro, that goes into my camera, throws up my lower third, and then cuts to my main box, which is a 3 box of me, the gameplay, and maybe my co-host that's he's playing on his end. It's just quick, dirty, and easy, and it's something you can do with playlists. So
as a shot type, it's funny you mentioned the playlist because I use that all the time in what I do for events and things. The playlist thing, and it's funny because the playlist is very powerful. I use it a lot simple. I use it a lot simpler than what you're describing, but the automation part of it is phenomenal because it's almost like Wirecast within Wirecast. I mean, that's a whole nother kettle of fish, and I'm glad you mentioned that.
Well, I think we're going to show next week, and we'll work on it a couple weeks. Give Jeff some time to get his system back up and running with the chroma key, and then get you guys to kind of go over Wirecast with the chroma keying. And you guys in the chat room, what do you think? Do you like this kind of? Let me stop the recording here so Lynn's not going over all this stuff. But the down and dirty recording has stopped. But what do you guys think about this? Do you think this is good for a post show? Do you want to see this? I know we kind of went over the 10 minutes. We kind of did 15 minutes, but do you find this useful? Is this helpful? Because we want to focus on one particular area of Wirecast, and I know everybody's got questions all over the place, but give it to you in bite-sized features as opposed to, well, let's go to chroma key, and then let's go over to here, and let's go over to here, because I think it's going to be too much all at once, and you're not going to retain it.
Yeah.
Because it's a complex program.
It is, and it's a matter of really just learning that it's actually, while it may be complex and sophisticated, that it's designed to be simple from where you need to start, whoever you are.
Yes.
And I think that's what's really important with it. In the coming weeks in March, Steve, I would like to do an overview of what I think is the single coolest gadget for Wirecast, and that is the 128 key X key.
Yes.
That to me revolutionized and changed. Just I got it at the beginning of the year, and in full disclosure, it was given to me by X Keys. But I absolutely believe this was a game changer for me because it gives me the ability to have full confidence in the X key. And it's just unbelievable how well it works. And I just think that I would like to do something with that because I think that could really be a game changer. And also, I'd like to obviously do maybe some. I know Joe had mentioned transitions. I can show you guys how to build alpha channel transitions.
Nice.
Where a graphic will come up, using After Effects, and then we'll change it and comes into something new.
And you have some skills in New Blue too. You've been playing with that. Where
I'm getting there. I'm really trying hard to get what I want out of it. Yeah, and it's an incredible program. It's me it's a learning curve. But as we talked about in the show, you got to keep learning, right? It's just an incredible program. But I have to real quick give a shout out to Deb Davis, who I saw a comment a minute ago. She had said that her challenge with Wirecast is keeping up with her pastor and all the scripture verses. I'm a guy of faith. I've worked for Prison Fellowship and Chuck Colson in years past. And I would just say Benadryl may be your best bet there if you've got a pastor like I do that likes to go at 80 miles an hour. But we'll talk about that. If you want to get in touch with me, I'd be happy to help you or anybody who is specific to the worship crowd that may have some interest in just maybe what can be done. We'll all come up with an answer together. So
Yeah, because there's a lot of tips and techniques that even that we use at our church that we could share with ProPresenter and things like that. Because I'm pretty good with ProPresenter. Um, but this is something that we want to do, and once a month we want to do on this show, at least till the secret project gets released. What we want to do is we want to focus on broadcasting specific show for On Social once a month. What do you guys think of that? Whether it be we focus on Wirecast or I know this is something, and I use it a lot when I'm talking to people, but there's probably guys out there, and you might be watching the show and you go, I don't know how far I can run an HDMI cable. I've had people come to me and say, I've run an HDMI cable 600 feet and in an auditorium, and the TV behind me is all macro blocked, which macro blocking looks like Minecraft, if that makes sense. Okay. And a lot of people don't know that the standard, you can't run without boosters, and you don't want to get into boosters, but HDMI more than 15 to 25 feet, depending on the cable. It really depends on the cable. Blackmagic is very, how do I want to put this? Blackmagic, finicky. That's a good word. They're really finicky with certain devices that some of their devices won't let you go more than 12 feet with it. The original ATEM was one of them. And it's not a put down on Blackmagic. It's just that they lock it to that because they don't believe you should be going more than that with HDMI. And we want to present you with some options like even SDI. Some of you guys don't know what SDI is, and that's not a knock on anybody because we've all been there. But understanding how far you can do SDI and why SDI is the broadcast standard right now. Those types of things.
Well, I've got something. I just had a thought because you with your HDMI comment, you reminded me of something crazy. A couple weeks back, we were doing my game show at a local resort, and it was weird because when I would stand next to the Ethernet cable, I have the converters, the encoder and decoder system where I can go 200-300 foot. I noticed that when I just stood near it, the picture would go out. So I would like to hear if as people watch this through the week, what is the most bizarre AV fail or AV weirdness you've ever experienced, and maybe we can break some of those down and kind of figure out what was really going on there, because I'm still kind of, to me, it was like the Bermuda Triangle. I don't know why that was happening.
Well, and I know, Marty, you and I had the experience over when you were over in Germany that we did a lot of testing when you got over there. I went out and bought some Behringer Sharks, and for what you guys do, if you guys don't know what a Behringer Shark is, it's an actual audio delay system that a lot of musicians use when they're sending audio from front of house to the rear of house so that they can delay the audio so that way they can get it synced up perfectly. I know it sounds really weird, but audio bounces, right? So it's a way that they can get it to where
feed them the video.
Yeah, so Wirecast is a built-in delay system, but this is a hardware piece, and like Jeff, sometimes when you're on location, you need a way to delay audio, and so we can kind of go over hardware like that we've played with, that we know how it works. And it looks like the chat room, I know Joe's on board. He's like, you guys, this should be a show right here. I know we're a little long-winded today, but I want to put it out there because we're trying to figure out what works here. And I know On Social, everything we talk about on Social is important. It really is. But we also want to give you guys some value in the production because you still need to know how to do some of this stuff.
I think we'll be doing more of this, right, Steven?
Yeah, I definitely think so.
Different.
So get those topics together, email them. If it's something you really need some hand holding, I know Jeff volunteered. You can connect with him. But if send us in the topics that you'd like us to cover in post show. We've already given you some ideas of what we think about covering, but again, we want it to be about you. What's stumping you in Wirecast, and make it Wirecast specific. What is stumping you? If we don't know the answers, I can get somebody from Telestream to join us if it's something that is really beyond me, and it's few and far between.
So Captain, I have an idea here, and this is where I put my foot in my mouth. I say they present a problem, and if they stump all three of us, because we're also mighty and holy, right? If we can't do it, they get a little something. We give away something.
You mean like a
Right? Because,
maybe a copy of
I don't know
Wirecast?
everything about Wirecast. There's parts of it I haven't ventured into that I don't use, but, but
The
it's like that
wheels
with
are
all
turning.
software.
What if we did this instead of stumping us? Because I mean, between the three of us, we should be able to figure it out. And I don't think that's a fair assessment for these guys. But what if we did this? Whoever sends in the best question, going along with what you're saying, the best suggestion of to do this, we can get them a copy of Wirecast if they don't already have it.
That sounds like an interesting little, contest there.
Could be. What do you guys
Wow.
think? Does that sound like an idea? And maybe we could talk to some of our partners like PTZ Optics, and maybe Paul Richards can sweeten the deal. Maybe get a PTZ Optics webcam or something to throw in for another type of giveaway that we could do. I know he's done it before. Yes, she says free is good.
Yeah, free is good.
Or even if you have it and you're working in a school or a house of worship, you could always win it for them. That's fine too. So, anyways, we got to get
Yeah,
off
but
the
I
air.
mean,
Go ahead.
I know we
Sorry.
do, but one last call out because you've said it a couple different ways, but it's really important, everybody, that if you like what we're doing here in any of the forms, right? Because all of them have
Yes.
their own value points. Let us know what you're really looking at because it's a million miles wide these days between people who do TV and all the high end stuff and people who are doing mobile phone video, and both of them have a lot of worth. But help us understand how we can help you, and we will make some great content.
Yes, put that in the email too. Jeff has that's a great idea. Let us know. Even if you send us an email saying, "Hey, we love what you're doing, but we'd like to see more of this." You're not putting us down. We've got thick skin. We've been doing this for a long time. We really want to know because we don't want to just sit here and talk to each other and talk to you guys. We want it to be valuable. We want you guys to get something out of it. And we all have
Yeah.
knowledge. So if we can share it, or if there's specific people that we need to bring on to get that knowledge to you, that's what we want to do. So he's 100% right. So with that, those of you that stuck around for post show, we appreciate it. And we will see you next week. Should be fun.
See you.